When we talk about Indian animation films, the normal responses, as in appreciation, Indian films are getting. Is it good enough these days, or is it getting better now?
Like nominally, people are identifying with a few filmmakers from India who use animation to tell stories. The fact that many people use animation in India doesn't put India on the map of animation, world animation. More people getting into creating stories using animation only can put India in that prestigious map of animation filmmaking. Otherwise, we are very big in the animation outsource map.
Yeah.
But we are not anywhere in the international artistic animation community or international animation for even entertainment, mass entertainment. We don't figure anywhere. If you think that we have done great job with Chota Bheem as a series or Motu Patlu as a series and others, then we are very badly mistaken. Our children still would prefer Ogie and the Cockroach with the Hindi dub, or Shinshan with the Hindi dub, because inherently, or even your Doraemon, which is 40-50 years old, Doraemon is recycled in India. Kids prefer that. Why do they prefer that? There is a reason, because those programs have much better thought process in it, and it's been evolved and developed as great content. Till we improve the budgets, till we feel that this is something that is going to sustain us, it seems we are doing it in a half-hearted way. The content development in India that we see on the series, it seems it's a bit half-hearted. If one goes fully into it, not really thinking that, with this product, I'm going to make my entire moolah, and I'm going to make humongous profits, then, like I always say that, then your math is working than the art. Your math cannot lead the science of how a good product is made.
But I think it is sorry to interrupt, it's affecting in all levels, I think, because 10-15 years back, if I remember, we used to, for e-learning, we used to hire people. So people who are interested in animation, yeah, of course, they will get into gaming mostly. That was the time when, gaming was getting a little attracted. But very rarely kids were moving on to pure animation because out of 10-15 people, I think 1 or 2 people have joined, say like Toons and then DreamWorks and all. So the general perception was that the career gets stuck at some point. So things have changed in these days. So what would you advise for an aspiring animator?
We cannot make all the animation aspirants animation filmmakers. My advocacy is not to convert everybody into a filmmaker. If everybody is a filmmaker, then who is going to animate? Who is going to do the technical part of making the film, right? So, but my point of view is that everybody who is contributing to a filmmaking process should be oriented towards the entire process of filmmaking. They need to know the whole part, how the entire process is, and how their role plays such an important role, such an important part in that filmmaking process is something that everybody needs to know. I don't believe in like if I'm a carpenter who makes a table, I buy sheets of plywood. I buy pieces of wood for the legs, and I get a varnishing guy. I get another person to put the screw, drill the holes, put the screw. But I may be designing the table, but even the person who is drilling a hole to put the screw in needs to know the product. What is the product? How is the product going to be used? And how my contribution is going to make it stable? And I'm talking about from a carpenter's point of view. Every field, a person who knows the product when he contributes is very different from a person who comes just to screw. He will screw up. He will not put the screw into the table, but he will screw up the job because he doesn't know. That's the situation in our country where people are taught part of the job, not being taken through the entire product or the process. So that is where I have a difference when big companies teach somebody just to make a rig, somebody just to make a blend shape, somebody just to make a model or a polygon. Even a person who models need to know how the model is going to turn out. If a person knows that how the character is going to behave, is going to act, his contribution to the modeling will be substantially different from somebody who just makes polygons and make a face. That is where my whole deal is. That if once people start thinking like that, knowing the product and starting to contribute, they will have a lot of respect for the product. And that is the day things will change for the workman force of animation in India. As of now, people are just looking for jobs, and whatever they learn is a skill to sustain themselves for a job in animation. That is not going to help. You know very clearly how foreign pre-production companies would be sending them proper material. They would even tell them what is the first frame, what is the last frame, what is the mode, what is the lighting, what is the texture. Every detail has been given to them. The person who sits here is just following that instruction and doing it. He doesn't elevate towards becoming somebody who can think like that and do it on his own or her own. Once the skill or the interest grows to become, to contribute in that level, only the industry will have a different change. Then you can use those people to work on our own content. They will contribute actively. Today, when I call them, they will give me a daily rate or a second rate or a whatever hourly rate or whatever. But what do? I'm telling you, when in my company, when we test a lighting artist, these are lighting artists who have worked in like really bumps, which are very well. And if I tell a lighting artist, put two characters in this environment and give me different modes. Give me a romantic lighting. Give me an eerie lighting. Give me a depressing lighting. Give me a flashy fashion show, sort of a glamorous lighting. Give me fantasy-oriented, lighting, which is almost like a superhero film sort of a lighting. If I give him a brief like this, the same situation, he doesn't know where to keep the lights, what to achieve, because he doesn't have that sheet of specification of what I need exactly. It is becoming a skill-based thing, sort of a factory-oriented work than a product or a process passion-driven work. Very, very big difference. What happens in a lot of cases of NIDNs and like good institutes that teach animation and filmmaking, they tend to move on to the corporate side of things where they don't do filmmaking anymore, and they would do some other job which would pay them very well. They would think that they will make the films whenever they have time and money, but that never happens because you get your it's a trap. You get into the trap of leading a lifestyle which is more which will become a priority more than making a film. So we try and train up people to make them understand the importance of making short films in the the cultural fabric of cinema. How much you contribute artistic films decides how fertile the ground for our even commercial filmmaking. So if a country produces more artistic filmmakers who their films become a robust fertilizer base for creating, like, even have that impact in the commercial cinema,
Yeah.
because you have so many, you need to have certain amount of concentrated that ingredient in the frivolous entertainment cinema industry. Also, you need like really solid artistic component. We want more people to start pushing films like the way we try and push our films, which are more for creative satisfaction than commercial uh, revenue, exploitation. So that is an important balance to maintain. Also, I mean, so this is this has many implications, and of course, these are Eeksaurus films, so we try and release them in better platforms for more people to see.
Two, three, four. Taram tam ta tararam tam ta tararam tam ta tararam ta tam ta taga tam. Mind blowing है. Take, हाँ, take. One, two, three, four. Hey. One, two. क्या बात है? One take.
We talked about the lighting part, so that connects me to the music in your videos. So those are like very we get the feel from the kind of attractive music that you have used in Fisherwoman and Tokri, of course. So those are the ones which we could see. So how do you visualize those things, as in to have, because that adds much value to the visuals.
See, in animation film, sound plays a more than 50% role in an animation film. So I am always thinking sound, even when I am seeing visuals, and it is very important for me. I'm not. I don't say that all our films have music, but sound plays a big part in our, and that's one area where I get very involved. And I believe my interest in music also, and the vocabulary of music that I have, makes me converse with the music director in a non-intimidating fashion, where I think a musician or a music director is inspired to give their best than pressurized to try something new. I always carry my references. I have my references. I never have asked any music director to replicate it in terms of instrumentation, melody, or just translate the feel. I mean, I don't want to lose the feel. You can elevate it further, and that's the kind of way I work. And I work very closely with the music directors and sound engineers. Sometimes even after the music director has done the job and gone, I would probably tinker with the music track with the sound engineer. because sometimes people give a lot more than necessary. So at that point of time when they are giving so much, you don't want to tell them that, no, I don't want so much. I would rather they give everything, and because they are happy. After that, I would do the necessary editing to make sure it is appropriate according to me. And so I get involved very actively, and probably that's one reason I've heard a lot of compliment about our soundtracks, and also my keen musical interest. I love the days when I'm spending at the our music sessions.
Coming back to this Fisherwoman and TukTuk and Tokri, you mentioned that those started as a team building activity in your organization. So how that evolved? What was the thread? How did you start with that? As in, of course you would have wanted to create a wonderful film.
So I had seen huge cracks in our 3D team way back in 2008, and there was some people had huge egos. Some people were very enthusiastic and young, but they could never work with these but egoistic seniors. The huge cracks were there in the team, while they were all very talented people. So I thought about building a short film. A short film, when you work on a short film, it has many dynamics. It evolves everybody. It sets everybody in the teams thinking. And we are working with small teams. Okay, we don't work with huge teams. We've been doing films from the beginning with a very lean force. Very big difference from a big company than the way we work. We may work with 4 people on Fisherwoman and TukTuk. That's it. We don't want any more people working on it. Even on Tokri, we had just 4 people working on it. That's it. Eventually, also, it was only around that many people. So, even with Fisherwoman, I said, we are going to do a short film. Whenever we don't have projects, we are going to work on it. So everybody was very happy. It's very cheerful. There was, for that much time, all the ice was broken. People were, they were all integrated. Okay, they have a common mission, not to infight, but, they have a common task to achieve. And everybody was in a competitive mode to, start contributing. Very healthy in that. If people are working to outdo each other for quality and betterment of the product, it's a very healthy competition. So that's the time when I was driving once from my home in Bandra to Famous Studios. In the traffic at around Worli, there was a big traffic snarl and I was stuck. So I saw this really burly fisher women with their baskets crossing the road. And they were like, they didn't care. I mean, as they were walking, they were pushing and, throwing small vehicles, and, the small cars were getting shaken by them. They were like these tornadoes crossing the road. And whoever tried to comment on or exclaim or react to their brashness, they would stop and hurl a few abuses at them. So they were like really tough people and very, very hardened people, and but they were wearing a lot of gold and ornaments, and they were, like even figuratively, when you talk about it physically, also they're pretty voluptuous and but they were tough people, and I was wondering, why do they become like this? Why would they become like so nasty? So I just figured that, it's a trade. Maybe trade every day. You convince them about product every day that, you have to say that, this is worth this much. And the other person is out to tell them your product is not worth this much. It's a fight to you lose, you win. But it's a hard work, like you carry this whole weight across places and try and sit in this spots, very difficult spaces to spot, meet with all sort of people. There are really cheeky buggers, there are bratty people, there are nice people, but at the same time, there are a lot of muck that you have to come across and handle them. So they become pretty hard. And that's something that I felt that, maybe this is something that they have not chosen by naturally, that, oh, I want to grow up and become a fisherwoman is something that nobody would actually wish, probably. It is a circumstance that, the mother or father or somebody must have said, this is what we have to do, and you have to do this. There is no change, no amendments done. So I felt, what if, this woman had a different dream? What if she wanted to set herself free from this burden that she's carrying around, which is her occupation? And that's the genesis of Fisherwoman and TukTuk. It's about a fisherwoman who decided to own an auto rickshaw, because traveling in an auto rickshaw is something that she felt as a whiff of freedom in her daily stuffy life. So that's how I thought about it, and I think more or less all women in this sort of occupation are trapped by the society, the way the society would tell them what to do. So it is that sort of thing that driven me to create a story like Fisherwoman and TukTuk. Tokri is yet another incident where I was stuck at a traffic jam, and this little girl in uniform, started tapping on my window, trying to push me to buy baskets, and I shooed her away. I didn't feel too wrong about it, because that's what everybody does, and everybody thinks that beggars shouldn't be encouraged, and that will create more beggars and stuff like that. So it's a set mindset, and with that sort of a involuntarily I shoot her away. But on the drive to my work, I felt extremely guilty, thinking that maybe she's not somebody like a regular beggar, that the way I thought, and because she was wearing uniform, and I felt that there could be some circumstance that driven her to the road that day, and I was so insensitive, and I thought this is something that everybody, even though I'm sensitive in some sense, I'm empathetic in that sense, but I don't think twice to react to somebody like that on the road. That is something that I felt. They must be hearing so much in a day, and they might be seeing so many people of the same species who react to them like they are from another planet or something. And that is something that I wanted to use as a theme for Tokri. And I wrote a story. I got like very positive reactions from people, and that's how I went ahead and decided to make it. Both the films were planned to be like a 2-year or a 1-year experiment, but it all took so much time, which is completely unforeseen. And there are a lot of learnings from these experiences, good
I
and
think,
bad.
yeah, but then you had this twist in the end, which was so which was quite natural and so touching as
Which is natural, because only Bollywood shows you things that are unreal, that would happen to life, but in reality it doesn't happen like that. So but in reality human beings can change. That is something that is possible. We ourselves can be forgiving, and that is the change that we need to embrace. And we ourselves need to be sensitive as human beings. If we can do that, there'll be a lot of betterment in our world.
lots of requirements for this movie to be released on a OTT or why was it on YouTube?
To be really honest, there are no much avenues on OTT or any other place. It is not very easy for a short film to be released commercially. So this was selected by Short of the Week, which is a very prestigious forum in the US. And Short of the Week only released it on YouTube, and they have also released it on their page. So it is not us who have released it. It's Short of the Week has released it.
I did not notice that, but so yeah.
Yeah, it's not us. Yeah, I mean, I think it is important that it went to somebody who selected it. It had to go through a selection process. So they selected it as the film that they want to uh, feature as the short of the week.
So how long
Which
it
is
took for
first.
Tokri to from the conceiving the idea to the output? How much time it would have taken?
2008 to 2017.
Really?
2008 to
But that's a very beautiful, because those trailers itself were keeping us the way that dad is touching her hair, and I mean, it's very
uh,
that is touching really to where it should touch.
Indian emotion versus internationally how parents and children value these things are very, very different. Asian sentiments and expression of love and European expression of love, very, very different. People in the Europe couldn't connect with it
Oh.
as much. They couldn't
So,
connect with the film. Even though it was featured in many film festivals, they cannot imagine a father and daughter having a bond like that, like this sort of a bond. Even though the most amazing film, Father and Daughter, is from Michael Dudok. It's a very touching, but it's never. Uh, there are several subtle, softer sides of expression that we capture from our father and our parents. It's not very expressive, very explicit. That they never say "I love you, better," "I love you, better," "I love you, better." That it is not there. "I love you, my dear daughter." "I love you, sweetie." "I love you, darling." These are words that are never used in Indian culture. Father never tells a child how much a father loves, but for a father, the child is everything. A father might not be explicit in showing affection by keeping on physically hugging her or all those things, but it's very different value systems that work in India. So it's not very clear thing. So even if that is the tapping, like the way you are noticing it, others will not notice it as a sign of affection. So for us, it is the correct code. It's a correct family code because they are all struggling for their daily means. There is no space for explicit engagement with children over things. The child may be taken out one day to show one place, but that is the best he could push himself to show his love and care. That taking that time out on a Sunday and taking her to show a beach or something would be the best that we can do. But it means so much to the child. The child would remember, even if the child is grown up at 60 years also, they will say that my father took me to that beach. These are very softer side of Indian family ties, subtle expressions of love. So Europeans and I'm very happy to see the way even in the US the film is doing so well. There's too many people who are writing to us on a daily basis. Uh, Too many international press who is writing about the film. Of course, the craft of it is a big highlight, but also the story. We wanted to base all the stories on very threads, rather than very layered or complex threads, because we felt when you add so much of layers and um, experiments with your execution technique, your storyline has to remain very simple. That's when it kind of flies. So, and it needed a very simple graph, and I'm quite happy with the result. Of course, by the time I finished the film, my own awareness about storytelling, story narration, all those things had changed. So 2008, how my intelligence and intellectual capacity of conjuring up a story and the things that I have experienced, traveled around and seen and observed and read and seen and from movies, I felt it's very shallow story for that much. It's just very simple. One could go into a lot more depth, is what I felt. But that, like I said, that keeps changing. What I draw 4 months before also is something that I find like cringeworthy. So it's
So
not like
was anything changed from the time you conceived and by the time you executed? In terms of visualization or
in Tokri.
yes.
In Tokri, a few changes that we have done. Uh, of course, some of the shots have become far more complex. I mean, like the time lapse in the traffic section. Shooting the still objects with a motion blur. Was an experiment that I felt I should be doing. It was not a premeditated experiment, but I felt since it has to be a time lapse, we need to have motion blurs. I didn't want it to be like a stuck still frames. For that, the trouble that we had to take was also quite huge. For every still, people had to like pull the vehicles from all sides, so you get the blur in the still. So for every still, there was a blur, so you get the time lapse like that. It was technically quite ambitious. In terms of story, there was a big change that was done, which is just to make the film a bit positive.
I thought it was all universal, the relationship and the emotions, but that's a very
Very
insightful.
different. Very different. Like a father and the daughter sleeping together itself can be connotations can be very different in the Western thing, because the child is asked to sleep very early on their own bed, and not with the father and mother. That itself is something that many people cannot accept as a possibility. It is a very different culture in India where kids sleep with their parents. I used to. I mean, my father used to sleep with me when I was in the 10th or something. You know, so it's very different. This culturally, they're all very, very different contexts. We are not aware of these things, but I don't care so much, because we are not trying to make a story that happens in Spain. It's a story that happens in Mumbai. And so we are true to that.
But then that kind of a culture we are carrying to the world, where people will come to know about this. But at the same time, I have this thought, as in, you have worked on Amachitra Katha as a base in some of the animations initially. And India is said to have so much of rich mythological and children's literature. So when you thought about creating something on your own, you created a story of your own. So what was the thought behind that?
In India, the only stories that are popular are Mahabharata and Ramayana across the country. These are the only two stories that everybody knows. All the other stories are hugely culture specific, language specific, and there is huge incompatibility between the states. Like what you read in Malayalam is not something that you can use it in Karnataka. Or what a story from Tamil Nadu cannot be something that will get easily accepted in Punjab. The form of the hero and the villain, just the physical attributes of the person changes beyond the Vindhyas. People with mustache and beard are villainous, and people with clean-shaven faces are heroes. That's a concept from Mahabharata times. The calendar art is the first ones that actually put faces to these gods and goddesses. In India, to get a pan-India influence, a story needs huge amount of adaptation and mellowing down to become pan India influence. Otherwise, it's all the derivatives from Mahabharata and Ramayana.
I have been working in Cochin, and that was company owned by Mali's son, Mali Madhavan Nair.
Oh,
Okay.
Mali Madan Nair was the one who used to come to our school and tell us stories.
Okay.
Every Saturday, Mali used to come to our school in Chinmaya, and I used to go and listen to his stories. The entire Mahabharata, I've heard from him. He used to narrate stories so beautifully. We were all such children, so little, but I remember every little detail that he had told us that time. Every day, 1 to 2 hours of session, every Saturday. So Mali's son used to own this company.
Mali's son, he's a management mentor. So he's Madhav Mohan is his name. Mali wrote this book. It was Circus. Circus was a story which was translated to many languages. So there were requests from channels to give the rights so that they can animate and all. But then it did not work out that way. That's why I was
It was on the animal.
Yes.
I haven't read it. I haven't read it.
Yeah, it was about animal kingdom taking the control, and also very interesting and like any other Mali stories. So that is why I was connecting to Indian stories. Why we did not pick an Indian story because it's rich culture.
In India, no, very few people write for animation. So it needs to be transliterated for animation.
Yeah.
So it's not translated, but from live action thought process, no, it needs to be. I mean, yeah. So let's see.
Yeah, imagining a character, like if you give this conversation to any established actor, you will know how he will perform. At least you will get an idea. You would have seen his films, or you would have that judgment. So how to get a character act and behave? Like we were watching Fisherwoman the other day. The guy entering into the auto rickshaw, and the way auto took a U-turn, and I mean. Very exciting to see those moments captured from the real life. So, but then to imagine a character behaving, so how difficult or how different or how do you do that?
Basically, like you kind of create a story for that person. That's how you do it. I mean, I said he's probably from a Tamil guy who's been staying in this place for a long time. He's a big fan of Shivaji Ganesan and Rajnikant fan. So his motion and things and all are like that. Very confident. His gait is very different. He's erect, standing very erect, and all those things are used from such. He's a dwarf, so he has that full aspiration to be a superhero, like full powerful. He's there's a little bit of mental making up that people do when you're not that tall. So you that also adds to the character. So there are several things that we discuss and write about him. So I had written and thought about him like that.
Basically, I was wondering, as in you, about the feature film, full-length feature film. Have you planned any of that sort? I know it.
Oh yeah, there are some films that I've been working on since 2005, and there are a couple more short films that we are working on currently. There are new short feature queries that are on, which we are developing some scripts right now. I'm discussing something here in Kerala, some feature film. So yes, it's a lot of
Animation
discussion.
or live action.
Both.
Okay. Very interesting. Very, very, very exciting. We'll wait to watch those. If you are getting lots of money, plenty of money. So what would you do the next day? I know animation is there in your blood, but then what more?
I would. The immediate thing that I want to do is a feature film, like a beautiful feature film based on an Indian story, 2D animated. That is the dream that I have right now. I mean, that's something that if somebody is ready to produce it, or if I get funds, that will be the first thing that I'll do.
So what sort of fund, as in how big will that be? I don't know whether any of those big wigs will watch my interview, but then if at all we can imagine, there is no boundary for imagination, right?
It is costly to develop a full length feature film with the kind of intricate details that I'm looking at. But still, it will be like one like maybe 1/5 or 1/8 of a Bollywood film.
Okay.
Like a full-fledged star-studded Bollywood film, it'll be like 1/8 or something like that. It will not cost more than that.
I hope things will work out very soon, and we'll have a wonderful, things happening parallelly, and in a very
Hope
short
so.
timeline, you'll be able to complete that.
It is really required some amazing films that people enjoy, which is not only, it is not out and out funny cartoon, but something that people can love to another world, which they can believe that they're in. That's the space I want people to go into. The kind of stories that we've heard and grown. If one can take people to those stories planes, that will be the ultimate. I can see it, but I need to make it.
Let those dreams come true. In this time of COVID, we have a lot of limitations, but I think there are lots of positive, things happening, especially the prospects of crowdsourcing, getting things done in different places, and crowdfunding, which could also be a possibility. Let things happen.
Thank you. Bye.